Our scripture today, Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Henry Ward Beecher says, the little troubles and worries of life may be as stumbling blocks in our way, or we may make them stepping stones to a nobler character and heaven. Troubles are often the tools by which God fashions us for better things. Now, Henry Ward Beecher, were you to have said that in this day and time and dared to put that on a blog, you would be accused of hating the poor. The little troubles and worries of life may be as stumbling blocks in our way, or we may make them stepping stones to a nobler character and to heaven. Troubles are often the tools by which God fashions us for better things. See, Henry, you're just a hater. That's what you are. You're just a hater, Henry. Who knew Henry Ward Beecher was a hater? Can you note the sarcasm? I just want to make sure you catch the sarcasm. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. If you live like no one else, later you can live and give like no one else. It's across the bottom of every page on almost 5 million total money makeover books. And it comes from that scripture. If you live like no one else, later you can live and give like no one else. You have to pay a price to win. If you win without paying a price, I don't think you won. And you really don't end up with anything. Really, it's very rare. Dave, all those rich people, they inherited their money. I hear that all the time, you know. The interesting thing is the research and the facts don't back up that mythology. They don't. Tom Stanley did a ton of research in The Millionaire Next Door, and he discovered that 88%, or about 9 out of 10 millionaires in America today, are first-generation rich. 9 out of 10 are first-generation rich. Started with nothing, got up, left the cave, killed something, and drug it home. They changed their life. They broke free from the chains of their heritage, their community, their education, the things that would hold them back, the hurdles that they had to climb over. And they're every color, and they're every sex, and they're every nationality. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Just some people go do it. Oh, by the way, the Forbes 400, which is the 400 wealthiest people in North America today, as rated by Forbes magazine. Of the 400, a little over 300 of them are billionaires. That's 1,000 million. Of those, 67%, two-thirds of them, approximately 250, 260 of them out of the 400 are first-generation rich. And that's billionaires, and in many cases, multi-billionaires. See, Warren Buffett's first-generation rich. The Walton family, or Sam Walton, was first-generation rich. The Walton kids today are second-generation rich. But first-generation rich. Interesting to think about. In other words, the troubles that you have and the worries of life can be stumbling blocks in our way, or we can make them stepping stones. You see, I've discovered that the gleaming mountain of success is not really a gleaming mountain. It's more like a pile of garbage. But you're just standing on it versus laying under the garbage. Most of us that have achieved any level of scale to success in parts of our lives, or whether it's wealth or marriage or kids or our spiritual walk or whatever, have had a massive number of failures along the way. And for some reason, just didn't quit. And you can list company after company, person after person. Oh, here's a really weird one for you. Insurance company did this piece of research that shows that if you immigrate to this country, if you come to this country from another country legally, I need to enunciate that carefully, you come here legally under a visa and proper immigration laws and so forth, you are 4 times more likely to end up a millionaire than one of us good old boys who was homegrown here. The reason is that people believe in this country. Sometimes people who don't live here believe in this country more than those of us who live here. I mean, why is it that people, for instance, in the Vietnamese communities have unbelievable success ratios? Why is that? No, certainly there's some turkeys that are Vietnamese, don't misunderstand. Just like there's rednecks and hillbillies like me that are good people, and there's some turkeys in that group as well. I mean, we can say this about any group. But why is that? Why is it that you can take, I think you know the story. Yeah, I read one of them in Chicken Soup for the Soul. You remember that old book, Chicken Soup for the Soul? It was about a family that came from an Asian country, and they opened a dry cleaner, and they lived in the back of the dry cleaners, and then they lived upstairs above the dry cleaners. If they made a little money, they built it out, and then they bought another dry cleaners, and 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 they're still living upstairs in the dry cleaners because they were more concerned about changing the future of the next generation than they were their current comfort. But too many people now sacrifice their future for their current comfort. One definition of maturity is learning to delay pleasure. Immature people can't delay pleasure. Adults devise a plan and follow it. Children do what feels good. And so live like no one else, so that later you can live and give like no one else. And not only so you can do that, but so that you completely change your family tree. You live and leave a legacy. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Live like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else. If those actions didn't have positive results, why would anyone do them? I got to tell you, I love desserts. This time of year is so hard on me. I'm just got a sweet tooth from now on. Red meat and desserts. These are Dave things right here. You know, man, a big old steak and a huge slice of homemade pecan pie afterwards. I just can't think. Oh, my mouth is watering right now beyond belief. I love desserts. Well, there's a direct correlation between the size of my belly and the amount of desserts I eat. There's a direct correlation between my physical condition and how much time I spend running or on the elliptical or lifting or doing whatever I'm going to do to get aerobic activity to burn off some of that pecan pie. Man, I got to stay away from that stuff. I have to pay a price to win. Otherwise, I get so big I can't waddle. Because I just like sweets, you guys. But I can't just sit here and be fat and go, it's McDonald's fault. There's a systemic breakdown. The caloric intake of the average American has got me down. I mean, the way people view food in this culture, I'm just stuck. There's nothing I can do. I'm a victim. I can't do that. I'll be as big as a freaking house if I do that. I have to understand that my actions have consequences. You know what that's called? Common sense. A lot of people don't have common sense anymore. That's why this show is so popular.